they were not prepared, and they were grossly overwhelmed. So they're undertrained, under-equipped, and grossly outnumbered, and lost some good friends, lost some good people that we knew. I'm Dr. John O'Brien, and I head a faith-based humanitarian mission here in eastern Ukraine. We came here back in 1997, out east to Kharkiv, and began working with orphanages and deaf, especially, and other invalids. My wife is a certified translator for Ukrainian and Russian deaf sign language, which is not the same language worldwide. Everybody thinks it's the same all over the planet. It's not. It actually changes across the city. Back then, the economic state of Ukraine and social programs was very challenged. And so orphanages and deaf invalids were, shall we say, at the end of the line and receiving any at all government aid or assistance. And so we came in and began working immediately. Kharkov has a deaf population of over 40,000 deaf before this phase of the war broke out, and most of them have been evacuated. But since '99, we have established here in Kharkov and also in Odessa and in Zhytomyr. We had a place down in Crimea that we lost back in 2015 when the Russians captured Crimea. And so we have continued these many years working with youth, working with the deaf especially, and other invalids and orphans, in assisting them, educating them, and using that as a platform to reach them and help them. So beginning in 2014, when the first phase of the war broke out in Donetsk and Lugansk, what's called Donbass, we immediately stepped up as a volunteer organization and began working with the military hospital here in Kharkov. And we were privileged to cover the costs of many medical procedures that helped save the lives of many of the soldiers that were shipped up here from the war front down in Donbass. Then we began to reach out to the refugees, the IDPs, over 380,000 IDPs from Donbass, Lugansk and Donetsk region were funneled through Kharkov here. And so we had a small part in helping one of the only refugee organization that was here at that time, and they're still working full force today as well, with diapers, hygiene products, feminine hygiene products, children's clothes, because it was wintertime, and it was an overwhelming task, as you can imagine, just with the sheer numbers of the amount of IDPs, people fleeing as the Russians further invaded Luhansk and Donetsk. 16 obviously was a very tough year because of the losses that the Ukrainian forces suffered, but we continued working both in our faith-based mission as well as in humanitarian capacities, continuing bringing in medicines and supplies to help and to assist non-lethal aid, those soldiers, men and women, bravely defending their homes and their families here in eastern Ukraine. Since the 24th of February, with this new wave, this new phase, if you want to call it, Russia's fuller scale invasion of Ukraine, we've become much more busy, and so we're now branching out and assisting other organizations, nonprofits, local volunteer groups across Kharkov and the Kharkov Oblast, with medical, with humanitarian, with food especially. We recently brought in 22 metric tons of food out of Romania here in Kharkov, because transportation is very difficult to get a truck to move out east here. And so we're thankful we could arrange that. And we divided that up with another charity organization here in Kharkiv that is operated by a good friend of mine. And so we know that we have food and supplies going to the doors of invalids, pensioners, people that are not able to get out physically. And so we, where we're at now basically is we continue bringing in non-lethal aid, armored vests, helmets, boots, warm weather gear, MREs, lots of medical equipment. We have lots of medical equipment, both for the military hospital as well as for local hospitals here in Kharkiv. We help supply one of the hospitals outside in a village out in the oblast of Kharkiv. And we have the opportunity to cross paths with other agencies and organizations, like TDI, for example, where we have a common interest in our goals of helping to equip and to train the men and women of Ukraine in defending their land. So the differences between what happened in 14 and 15 and what we see now are actually quite stark. 14 through 16 was very dismal. The attrition rate was very high. The casualty rate was absolutely mind-boggling. Ukraine was simply not prepared. I won't say on film why that was the case, but they were not prepared, and they were grossly overwhelmed. So they're undertrained, under-equipped, and grossly outnumbered, and lost some good friends, lost some good people that we knew. This time around, Ukraine has a better handle on things, and especially with additional training, not to mention Western weaponry, better equipment makes a better fighter. So better equipment, better training makes a much more efficient fighter in defending their land. So although it sounds like the attrition's high, and it is, it's nothing like it was in 2015 and 2016. It's not even remotely close. And so we're thankful that we have a part. Every tourniquet, every medical kit, all of the medical supplies and humanitarian supplies that we've been able to give out over the past 190 some odd days since the 24th of February, we know it goes to save lives and help prevent the loss of life. And for our ministry, being a faith-based ministry, for us, that is the number one and the most important priority that we have. I serve as a chaplain here in eastern Ukraine, officially with the Ukrainian Armed Forces and with various volunteer battalions across the city of Kharkiv and the oblast of Kharkiv. And that gives me an opportunity to be with the men on the forward operating bases, on the training bases, at their training camps, where I'm able to support them morally, spiritually, be with them, next to them, stand with them, kneel with them, and not just give them physical assistance like MREs or medical kit, but to be there and help them offload, to help them get some of that burden off of their shoulders, some of the atrocities that they've been forced to see when they go back in and liberate a village. And so that is what we have been doing. It's been a 25-year journey. We've seen quite an evolution governmentally here in Ukraine. We've seen a tremendous genesis, if you would, in their mentality and in their preparedness. The nationalism is healthy and it's vibrant and it's growing. And we see it making a bigger difference out east here, which has, of course, historically been very, very, very pro-Russian, and I believe that the balance is now gone the other direction. It's probably 49-51 now, going in the right direction. So, in a nutshell, that's who we are, and that's what we do, and we hope that we're able to continue to function here in Kharkiv and throughout the oblast, and be a help to those people, especially the deaf and the invalids that have literally no social assistance whatsoever of any kind, as well as being assistance to the soldiers and the instructors and the trainers that are defending and protecting our very existence here and for a great cause of democracy and freedom.